What happens when some PLA and a Systainer do the hanky-panky? Let me show you. We need to address the elephant in the room. Haha, no, Jimmy, I'm not the elephant. Rude. The elephant would be this giant open space above me. Can you see me? And it just so happens I have this little stack of Systainers that I need to find a spot for. Oh boy. Lift with your legs. Lift with your legs. Oh, God. Oh. Now, I know some of you might be asking, what is a Systainer? And I did a little bit of research for you, and I went to the Google. And it says, a Systainer is a stackable, modular container for storing and transporting tools, securely interlocking with others for organized, efficient, and mobile tool storage. That sums it up super, super well. Any Systainer that I've ever seen is going to have a handle, whether that's on the top, in the front, or both. Also, if it's a Festool Systainer, you're going to see a little identification tag on the right-hand side. And for the newer Systainers, you're going to have a T-lock, which is what locks the lid and allows you to open it. So let's check out this OF1400 router. On top, you can see all the different accessories that are available for this tool, as well as a nice picture on the right-hand side of how everything is supposed to look inside the Systainer. Ooh, that's pretty. You can tell that a lot of thought goes into each Systainer and the tool that goes in it, because there are so many different cubbies and pockets and different places to put all the accessories that you might need for that tool. And when you transport it, nothing's going to be jiggling around. Let's go over a scenario. Granny calls you up and she needs you to come over and hang that picture frame that you made for her over Christmas break. Hey, can you come hang this up for me? Yeah, no problem, Granny. I'll be right over. But you need to take some tools. That's where Systainers really come to shine. You can put your tool in the Systainer and you have a way to take them to the job site with you. And they are all stackable. So if we look here at the bottom of this one, we have little feet. See the little feet? You've got 2 feet that will hook in the back, and then 2 little platforms that make everything sit flush on the front. And each Systainer also has these little recess cutouts on the top of each one. And depending on what kind, you also will get a handle. So in this case, I've got screws, drill bits, all the other accessories that I'm going to need. This is going to be my bottom. So what I'll do is I'm going to take the little foot and I'll plop it into the recess. And as you can see, when I push down, everything sits flush. Now, if I were to grab the handle and take off, oops, I didn't lock it. So, put it back in, twist the T-lock 90 degrees, and now I'm good to go. So if you're a contractor or do a lot of on-site work, the Systainers are great. But if you're like me, who is in my shop 90% of the time and all my tools stay in here, you kind of just collect a bunch of different suitcases, and what do you do with them? Lucky for you, I've came up with 3 different solutions. Option 1, leave them stacked or laying around all over the shop. If you don't mind constantly moving them out of the way and have the floor space, more power to you. Option 2 is putting the tool in the Systainer and then housing it like you see here on screen. This guy's name is Sedge, and you can find him at Sedge Tool. Essentially what you're doing is housing the tool in the corresponding Systainer with a systematic storage solution. I wonder if that's how they came up with the name. And your last option would be to sell them. However, do so at your own risk.
Oh my word, where are we? Oh. Well, hey there, good buddy.
Hi there. Are you here for the Systainer?
Oh, would you look at that. That thing right there is a thing of beauty. Oh, thank you very much. Can't wait to take that down on the river, put some fish in it.
Oh, okay. Well, here it is. Take good care of it, please.
Here you go, old boy. Here's your sack of money. Thank you very kindly. Gonna do me some fishing on the river.
So you can go with any of those 3 options if you want to, but my approach is going to be similar to number 1 and number 2. And I'm going to try to avoid option 3 for as long as possible. Before we get into some of the specifics, if you're not already subscribed, I would greatly appreciate it if you would do that. 2025, my goal is to really bring this channel to life and to grow it as much as possible, please subscribe. Thank you. So here's what I came up with. Not too advanced. All it is a carcass, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a couple slides in here, and I've planned everything out on SketchUp based on the space that I need it to go in and how many Systainers I have, along with all of the different sizes. But I don't want to just put them in here and stack them. I would like to be able to access them with a drawer if possible. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of different sizes of Systainers, and that's going to be a huge factor when we go into designing. The goal is, no matter what configuration we have, if we have a large one and some small ones, I want to maximize the amount of Systainers that will fit into one cabinet. So in my professional opinion, the Sys3 drawers are the absolute top dog. You can order these online. I'll put a link in the description below, and you get 5 of them in a pack. And what's really nice about them is they come with the drawer slides, and they also lock into place. So if you have a van or you're traveling or whatever, they're not going to fall out. You can also put a lock on them if you really need to. All you need to do is push up on this handle, pull out, comes out. And the nice part is when you open the Systainer, you can actually open it all the way and it stays. The downfall to this, and the reason I'm not going to use this for this project, is the price. So for 5 drawers, it's a little over $250. Again, I'll put a link in the description below, but for what I need for this project, that's a little overkill. The more affordable option from Festool are the Sys3 Systainer rails, and this comes in a pack of 8, which really only allows you to use 4 sets. And the downfall to this for me is when you pull the Systainer out, you can't open the lid. It's more so just for transport and to make sure that everything stays locked in. Another option is to just put shelves wherever you need to. Obviously this one doesn't fit, but all you would have to do is either pocket hole on the bottom, domino from the side, or if you really needed to, just screw in directly from the side of the carcass, and you can put a shelf however you need to evenly space it out so you can maximize storage for each Systainer. So the option that I have went with is called the Sys3 Rail Pro, and the designer is, I don't speak Chinese, so I don't know how to say his or her name, but I will link to it. It's from Maker World down below. And I had Bambi, my A1 printer from Bamboo Labs, print these out. So as you can see, it's kind of a hybrid between the last 2 rails that I showed you, but this cost me, I'll be able to get quite a few sets of these from one spool, which was about $20. So here's how they work. It's basically a 2-part slide, kind of. So this goes inside of this groove here. You'll screw this into the side of your cabinet or carcass or whatever you want to call it. And then once the Systainer goes in, it'll slide out. And it's a 2-part slide, which I'll show you here once I get it installed. And installation is super, super easy. So the installation on these really is pretty darn simple. Just make sure that the right slide is on the correct side of the carcass. I make sure that it is flush to the front. You can offset it backwards or forwards if you'd like, but if you have it flush with the front, it allows it to actually give you the ability to open up the Systainer. And we're going to make sure that that's up there. I'm going to take the piece, put it in, slide it all the way to the front. So we got to make sure that it's flush on the front and pop in a screw. You don't want to over tighten, but you want to make sure that it's not going to give you any wiggle. And we'll pop in the next one. I do want to note that I do have it flush with the bottom. So here is what the side of the Systainer looks like. And here is our slide. This is the front. The little curved part always goes towards the front. And as you can see here, it just kind of snaps in, which is really nice. It's nice and flush with the front. All right, I'm going to slide this in from the front, and it'll go right on its tracks. Once it goes all the way back, you'll feel the front go down. And the cool part here is we can pull out. The slides themselves go about halfway. If you lift just the front of the Systainer, you can then pull it out the rest of the way and it will catch, which is really nice because you can then open it. Now, there's nothing in the Systainer, so it's going to bounce like that. But when it's up there, I can promise you, once this is mounted to the wall, it's got a lot more strength than you would think. No matter what anyone has ever told you, always cut off the factory edge on a sheet of plywood. It never, or I should say, it rarely ever is actually straight. Instead of taking everything to the table saw, I'm going to choose to use the woodpecker's parallel guides to break down this sheet of plywood. Using these is super easy. All you need to do is slide them into your guide rail, tighten them up, and you're good to go. Oh, and if you're in need of a tool carrier, Leather by Dragonfly's Wingman is a nice solution. Once the guide rails are on the track, next you need to set the distance in which you're going to cut. And in this case, we're going to rip at a little over 13 inches. Flip down your stops, set them against the fresh cut side that we just made, and start your ripping. After I make the first cut, I will pick the track up, take the piece that I just cut and move it out of the way, put the parallel guides back on my fresh side, and make the next cut. And then it's just rinse and repeat until you get as many rips done as you need. I know that everything is parallel, but we need to start making some cross cuts to get them down to their final size. So here I'm going to use the rail square from Bench Dogs UK to give me my reference edge. And here I am using the parallel guides to make all of my cross cuts. That way I know that each of them are the exact same length and now width. For this super fancy piece of shop furniture that we're making, I have chosen to go with pocket holes for my joinery. Super quick, super easy, and honestly, that's the best application here. When doing shop projects, I typically try to avoid using glue as much as possible just because it speeds things up a little bit. Here I'm using the track clamp bench top from Woodpeckers, and I think it's a very, very awesome tool for assembly. As you can see, I'm able to utilize some of the clamps within the top as well as some of the Bessie clamps on top, and that just helps make everything go together super, super smooth and also keeps everything pretty flush. And since all of these are going to be hung up on the wall, I'm adding some nailers on the top and the bottom, and that will give me a good anchor spot to actually attach them to the wall. And now it's time to actually hang the cabinets. And so here I'm hanging the ledger board, which will basically be another hand for me and help me keep everything level, as I will use that as a reference for the bottom of each cabinet. And then here I'm just finding the stud, that way I can have it pre-drilled and ready to go. Fun fact, I am actually terrified of heights, and being 6'5" on a ladder, I just don't like it. So anything I can do from the ground, I'm going to do. Unfortunately, I did have to be about 2 steps up on the ladder for this job. Thankfully though, I put my big boy pants on today, and I was able to just get over my fears and get it done. To make sure that each of the front of each cabinet stayed flush, I used the little F-style clamps to keep everything aligned, and since no one's going to see up there, I was able to drive a screw in from the inside to keep everything flush and parallel. And honestly, without that ledger board at the bottom, I don't really know the easiest way to do this, because it would have been a nightmare trying to balance and hold it up and drive a screw in. So kudos to the ledger board. And here I'm hanging the prototype or the proof of concept carcass that I built before, and honestly I only have 3 slides 3D printed so far. So as you can see, everything fits in there nicely, and it's going to be a great addition to the shop. And there you have it, a quick, easy, and affordable way to store your Systainers.